you're saying, hypothetically speaking, if there was a plant that took cow shit and turned it into, an environmental asset or whatever, turned it into energy, and it cost millions of dollars to buy, but there was a way to take that asset, move it on chain, fractionalize it, and sell 1/1000th of it at a cost that was actually affordable to somebody who would never have had that opportunity before, that's game changing in today's world, hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically speaking? Exactly.
Hello, everyone. GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs. I am incredibly excited for today's episode. Bit of a bonus episode this week because this is a new project that is launching this week, and I wanted to get it on your radar before it was too late. So I am incredibly honored to be joined by Geeta. Oh, I had it right, Sanka. Oh my gosh! Now I'm gonna flub it in the moment when it mattered most. Sankappanavar.
You got it.
Did I get it, Geeta? I'm so sorry. And Ashley Vickers. They are co-founders on the Our Planet project of Our Labs. And we're going to talk all about what that project is, what it means. Their NFT is minting this week. By the time you're hearing this, it will either be minting tomorrow on Tuesday, or you're hearing this on Tuesday and it's minting today. I want to give a little bit of an intro to these two women, though. Geeta started her career at McKinsey, has then built her own startup that was backed by SoftBank. She's taken 2 companies public. She's raised multiple funds that have invested heavily in ESG, a huge advocate for the environment, and has done some incredible work on that. I'm sure she'll speak more about. I'm sure you'll speak more about. Honestly, too many awards to, it feels like, mentioned, like too many accolades and accomplishments to fit in an introduction. You were awarded, you won Canada's Most Powerful Woman 4 years in a row, which is incredible, and just really, really honored to have you here. Also joined by Ashley Vickers, who is one of the co-founders, as I mentioned, of Our Planet, and has worked with Geeta, it seems like, for years, done a lot of work in the investor relations field. She was at Akira Impact and Grafton Asset Management, so also deeply embedded in the space of impact and the environment and making a positive change in the world. That's a mouthful of an intro. Welcome, both of you.
Hi, thanks, Carly.
Thank you, Carly. So glad to be here talking to you.
You are 2 people that I'm really excited to both talk about the project you have launching, but also kind of broadly take a step back and talk about why blockchain is so powerful. Geeta, you're somebody, but I think both of you have really been to the mountaintop of capitalism. You'll probably talk a little bit about your background, Geeta. You've also grown out of poverty, and you're very open about that, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit. So I want to talk about all the different use cases of blockchain that have really stood out to you. Before we get into all that good stuff, though, we do need to hear a word from our lovely, lovely sponsors.
When it comes to NFTs, convenience often wins over security, despite scams being everywhere. Brands and artists have no other choice by complying with big marketplace terms and weak security because no good alternative exists, which is what prompted Ledger to fix the problems of NFTs themselves and launch Ledger Market. The Ledger Market provides an end-to-end secure NFT experience for brands, artists, and users, enabling true ownership and control over NFT assets, from minting to storing. Ledger Market secures NFT projects via Ledger Enterprise, keeping you protected from phishing attacks and scams. And the market directs users to Ledger Live, where they can transact with a contract directly, giving clear signing details instead of blind signing and praying. Don't trust, verify with clear signing from Ledger Market. Stay up to date on the latest drops and the marketplace updates by following Ledger on Twitter and joining the Ledger Open Discord, which is linked in the show notes below. BUENO is the NFT toolkit you need to launch your digital collectible on the blockchain without coding. Every step of the NFT creation process, from generation to mint, all taken care of by the BUENO NFT toolkit. With BUENO, you can load up your art layers, reorder the layers, tinker with rarity, everything you need to make your NFT project a reality. BUENO even allows you to mint your tokens on the blockchain with zero code and offers advanced minting logic like linking allow lists, airdropping tokens, and on-chain royalty configuration. As a part of their launchpad, you'll get access to forums to run surveys, email collection, and build your pre-sale list to make sure you are hooked into your own community. BUENO is full of powerful tools you need to build the most expressive NFT project possible. So go to bueno.art and start building your own collections today.
Okay, so Geeta, would love for you to give us a little bit of your background, and then Ashley, I'll turn it to you as well, and really talk about what drew you into blockchain. And I'll caveat before I let you answer, I'll just say I usually don't start with that question because I usually just want to dive into whatever the project, this or that. But I think your background is so incredible and really frames up, why I think this project is striking. And so would really love to hear you talk about that a little bit and maybe that moment of, oh my gosh, this is going to be massive, or, this blockchain tech thing is really interesting.
Sure. I can start, Ash, if that's okay. So, Carly, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, both professionally and then personally, and I'll tell you why blockchain. So professionally, I am a serial entrepreneur, business builder, and became an investor later on in life as I built more financial wherewithal. Technologist originally by training, went to MIT, started my business career at McKinsey in New York, and then left, as I think you had mentioned, to start my first company just within a couple of years, because I just knew I was a builder. And so was lucky enough to be backed by SoftBank, and my lead investor from SoftBank is actually an investor in our labs again, and he's been a mentor of mine throughout my business career. My second company was sold to Cambridge Solutions, where I took on the role of head of strategic global outsourcing, which basically was a total growth role. And we built a financial transaction processing company to about 350 million revenue in about 3 years. And we took the business public, and then we sold it to exchanging in the UK. After that, I went and worked for an investment firm in New York, about $3 billion blue chip emerging markets focused fund called New Vernon Capital, and where my old lead investor from SoftBank was actually running Asia there. And then I met and married a Manitoban Icelander, and so left New York and moved out to sunny, freezing cold Calgary, Alberta, to make an honest man of him. And he's very honest right now, I will tell you.
You succeeded.
I succeeded, I did. But while here, saw an opportunity. This is very much an energy town, and I didn't know anything about it at the time. But saw an opportunity, and Ashley and I was there with me almost since day one. We started working together 12 years ago, and we built an energy and infrastructure investment firm to about $1 billion in assets together. And then in 2019, we started Akira Impact, which was investing in the assets that basically build a more sustainable, inclusive, and just world for all. And so in the last couple of years, we've taken Green Impact Partners, which is one of the companies that we started public. We built an energy transition financing vehicle, which is now north of 125 million in assets. And we started our labs, which is to build this purpose-based ecosystem in Web3 and beyond. And to tell you a little bit about myself personally, because our labs is where the intersection of professional and personal really do come together. As you did mention, I come from poverty, so true rural poverty. My dad raised a family of 5 on about $19,000 a year. And through that experience and being an immigrant, I have 3 core values that have always guided my not-for-profit life. And only recently, over the last couple of years, have I been able to bring them together into my for-profit life as well. And they are, number one, education changes the trajectory of people's lives. And so it changed mine. It raised my entire family out of poverty. And up until recently, I expressed that as being the chair of the Board of Governors for the University of Calgary. Second core value is helping the world's most vulnerable, again, as so many people helped me and my family through our journey. And I've expressed that by serving on the board of UNICEF for 6 years, and I'm a big donor to their maternal and child health programs globally. And then core value number 3 is accelerating marginalized communities, which for me has tended to be people of color, racialized minorities, or women, and wherever I can support, because I've always been in industries where they're very male dominated. And so wherever I can support, I do and I will. And so that's just a little bit about me. And then to tell you about why our planet and our labs, I think I've had the opportunity to build businesses across multiple world-shifting trends, whether it was the start of the internet, whether it was globalization, whether it was this movement to a sustainable and circular economy. And each one of these trends fundamentally shifted the way consumer and corporate behaviors existed. It not just shifted it, but it actually shaped consumer and corporate behaviors. And without a doubt in my mind, blockchain is going to be bigger. And so in our view, the next generation is going to own a digital asset account before they own or open their first bank account. And so where I see the opportunity here is for, in Web3, for all these communities to come together around a purpose and a set of values and allow themselves to self-govern. And what this is doing to change how users engage, how brands connect with their audience, how creators own content and assets, and how consumers and corporates interact with commerce and investment is just game-changing. And it has the ability to disintermediate institutions. And so what we've done is we've brought together an absolutely incredible team that has built and scaled multiple billion-dollar businesses. I think amongst our management team, we have 6 IPOs. We have a team that has IPO'd global cult brands and has created meaningful environmental and social change. And so we have a group of people, including Ashley Vickers, Chelsea Macklin, who built Bumble to about 100 million downloads in 5 years, Michelle Tobin, who led partnerships for Bumble, DraftKings, Rovio, and Grindr, as well as others who worked as head of credit for Deutsche Bank, UBS, Credit Agricole. And so we have this incredible group of people that have come together, and we are excited to do our best work yet here at our labs and our planet.
We're, of course, going to dive into the specifics there, but keeping it sort of high level, Ashley, I want to ask you, you guys have worked together closely, and I feel like folks who come from the traditional financial industry who are positive on blockchain, because I think there are many that are still very skeptical and frankly would love to get your perspective as to why that is and what people keep missing. But I think often they're at these big banks and they're like, oh, wow, this is deeply inefficient. Like there's so much about this that just functions poorly that blockchain maybe has the potential to fix. It's funny to me, you guys have sort of traditional financial backgrounds, and yet it seems like you're coming at this more from the NFT side than from like a DeFi side. Can you explain that? What was the aha moment for you? When did you both first start really exploring this technology?
Sure. Do you want me to go first?
Geeta? Yeah, go ahead, Ashley, and talk about a little bit about your background. And
I can streamline my background because
that.
I don't love to follow Geeta in that regard anyway.
I can't imagine anybody can follow Geeta.
It always does me a disservice if we're on the phone at the same time. I either need to close or save my commentary for another time. I'll fast through. Worked with Geeta for a decade, so about 12 years, helping build and scale these businesses. Big focus on, you already mentioned ESG, but that's really, it's fancy talk for just, real focus on environmental and social governance within investments and things that we're looking to try and make a difference in. And so what kept me with Geeta is you've heard her resume, you've heard her passion. I grew up in the financial institutional world, and where else would I have the platform, the scalability and growth within a women and minority-led business, especially when it is so heavy male-dominated and in sectors that I might not be as passionate about. And so what has kept me there is the strategy and agility to shift and mobilize capital in underserved, underrepresented niches of the market. And so even to your initial point on big finance people, I think one big difference for us is even if you looked at the institutional world, a lot of those are built like super tankers. That's the analogy I always like to use. We as capital providers have always been the speedboat. And number one, going where opportunity exists, but you need to be agile and nimble and move where the trends are taking you. And so while a number of these big institutions, the big banks, if you think of the different silos and departments that have to then communicate with each other to try and advocate for a shift or a change, they're just so far behind, right? And so fast forward to what blockchain is able to do, it can't even compete. And so I think there's a number of these groups that have recognized the power, but you also have a number of systems that are incentivized to keep things the status quo, and as soon as you're seeing things already starting to shift with BlackRock and others that are making those changes, they're creating the trading desks, they're starting to participate in this market. I just think there's a number of institutions that are cemented in their ways because it serves them today, but I don't necessarily think that's the best move for them altogether. And so for us, we look at the best opportunity set and just how do you now enter a market like this? And for us, we thought community was the first starting point, which will then lead us into our planet. So even just backing up for 2 seconds, just on my first journey, I was crypto mining in our basement about 4 or 5 years ago. It was horrible. I don't know if anybody has ever had experience doing that. It sounds like a vacuum running 24 hours a day in your house. And this was back when it was not popular. And again,
it was so bad.
Even only 5 years ago, that's not that long ago, to just accumulating these crypto assets and Bitcoin in my wallet and, trading these altcoins over time, and then got into the NFT trading space. I would like to say just about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago, through my partner who was educating me on this. And I remember hearing at the dinner table or just over drinks, okay, so hold on, you're trading lizards and you're getting a yield? Like, just talk to me about this. But you can see a lot of parallels with what this actually looks like as financial instruments. So we say this all the time on a number of our spaces and to our community. You might have gotten in for the art or the collectibles, but you're an investor. A lot of the mentality and the behaviors that we're all displaying is very much in line with how you would trade equities, businesses, all of these things. And so that was a really easy parallel for me to grasp onto as soon as I could look at these projects as quote unquote investments with a team, with a roadmap, with a plan. What are they doing? What's demand? What's supply? So it's very analogous to a world that I knew already really well. For me, though, because of the vantage point and the success that I've had alongside Geeta and our investment firms, I saw how institutions created financial products and how and who they served. And we were, unfortunately, in a system where you are serving the ultra wealthy and helping institutions become wealthier, giving all of the best access and products and services to those that could afford it. And I'm an elder millennial. If you're looking at this video, you might be able to tell, but I am older, in my late 30s. And speaking at least on behalf of my generation and the ones that are coming after me, I feel excluded, by a lot of TradFi systems that just are not set up and built to serve everyone. Hence why crypto and NFTs have become so appealing. I was already recognizing, and Geeta and I talked about this constantly, the rise of Robinhood, Wealthsimple, all of these other apps, because it was more digitally friendly to digital natives, which is our generation. You saw how quickly they were blowing up. And so you see this massive appetite from my generation to create financial wealth and opportunity for ourselves. We are looking to be empowered. We are looking for access, and we are not getting it through traditional means. There are too many barriers to entry, or they're boring. They're boring. They're not innovative. They're not interesting. We don't want to do things the way that our parents or grandparents necessarily did it. And so the bridge in Web3 towards social connection and social networking and peer validation and peer trading and just community building around, again, this level of co-ownership is just too appealing. I've looked at a lot of industries in the world and I've never seen anything that can compete with that. Hence why I think so many have such a strong interest level in building here. They just don't necessarily have the right entry point. And so I'm here to try and help and support and disrupt systems because I see a lot of commonalities with my community peers on trying to build a new system. And this is the best place to start.
It is amazing. Being deep environmentalist as you are, and like in the sense that I know Geeta, and I'm assuming Ashley, you worked on it, like literally you've built companies that are taking like fecal matter and turning it into like a renewable energy source for people, like deep tech work to solve these problems. And then having been 5 or 6 years in the mining space, as people, as the negative environmental impact of crypto became a defining narrative over this past year, what did you say to your peers in the environmental space? How did you explain it to them?
Yeah.
You've done some interesting work in this. Would love to hear from either of you.
So I think I'll touch on what Ashley just said first, which is it's just starting, right? And so this was for us something that we always believe in, which is progress over perfection. And we've started businesses in nascent industries before, and building on her point of what crypto is doing in terms of turning people into investors. There is a phenomenal quote. I can't remember who said it, but it was basically the internet turned everybody into a publisher, and crypto is going to turn everybody into an investor. And so if you take a pause and you just look at that point alone, and then you believe in a fundamental values, which we believe in, which is we're always striving to do better, to be better, to go for progress over this search for perfection, then you can actually see the use cases start stepping out and opening up in front of you, because you can see where technology is going to take them. So to use her example of crypto mining, when I first looked at it, because I used to always be on the phone with her, and be like, oh my God, for Christ's sake, please shut down your computers. I can't hear you. And so, but as a result of her doing that and being one of the first individuals to go into that space, what we then did is we said, this is very interesting. And what we ended up doing through North Base Finance is actually funded $25 million to a company called Crusoe Energy, which I think they just closed a major round at about $1.7 billion valuation. But what we did is we funded them to literally take waste flare gas and volatile organic compounds that were just being put into the environment, pull it out of the environment, and convert that waste gas into reusable a reusable power source. So they created a distributed power generation network, which is going to be, because they're taking a waste product, one of the lowest cost power networks that's out there. And they were using their first use case for that power network, that distributed low cost power network, was to crypto mine. But they were doing it with carbon negative energy. And so that was one of the first use cases that we saw. The second use case is, as
you didn't just see it, you made it happen. It sounds like it was like literally facilitated by y'all.
we helped provide the picks and shovels, the gen sets that actually helped make it happen. Yes, when the company was just starting up. And so, but the second case, that as we were looking at NFTs, because you're also asking like why this. Is we actually were initially going, okay, we're going to carbon offset the mint, of course, but we believed in the proof of stake coming through on the Ethereum platform, because we could see where the tech was going. And as we actually saw that, we said, okay, once this is complete, then the impact on electricity usage will go down materially. And we will only expect these to improve and improve and improve. And it's kind of like the use case, or the example of the Ford Model T. When the Model T was first created, it was this disgusting hunky piece of metal that, basically required you to fill it with something called gasoline, where you had to get it from, or petrol, where you had to get it from. It required you to crank it all up, and then it often caught on fire. And so it was ugly, it was noisy, it was smelly, and a horse was 10 times faster, 10 times more efficient, 10 times better. But then it improved and evolved. And for any engineers listening to this, it's Swanson's law, right? As you double, it's not time-based, it's actually capacity installed based. As you double capacity on any manufacturing asset or product, you reduce costs by about 20%, and then you make it more efficient. And you could just start, and we were just at the beginning of this blockchain evolution. Where it was 5 years ago to where it is today is just so different already. And so for us, we believed in investing in this evolution. Did that help answer?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was also partly a leading question to get me to this piece, which is I heard you speaking, I think, on another podcast about, just how much traditional banks loan out your money that you deposit in custody with your bank to fossil fuel behemoths, and to et cetera, insert here depleters of the planet and or companies that may or may not really align with your values. My understanding is that part of what you're doing at our labs, and we really will get into where the NFTs tie into this and the NFT community ties into all this, but like it is also helping to address that problem, saying, hey, custody your assets. And this is even separate than just your crypto assets, right? Like custody your dollars that you're keeping in your savings account at Bank of America or wherever you're keeping it, somewhere where you trust the institution to align with your values. Can you speak a little bit to that as well? And I think that's a piece of the environmental question around traditional finance that often doesn't get addressed.
Yeah, I can start, and then Ash, please jump in and add. Because this is a particular point that Ashley and I are both quite passionate about. I think, we are fundamentally capitalists. We believe in the power of capitalism to change the world, whether it's for good or for evil. We do believe in the power of capital. And so we've built our lives on actually moving large pools of capital to focus on different issues. And so what we firmly believe in is that you need to think about what your money is doing at any point in time and understand the ramifications of it. So just like we don't purchase sports goods that are made by child labor, no one wants to do that. If you know that there's a company that is doing that, you do not make that purchasing decision. You know that if there is a makeup company that is harming animals, you do not buy that makeup. If there is a company that is massively polluting the Amazon River with chemicals, you try and avoid that. So for the most part, we believe that human beings want to align their money with their own values. In our current traditional finance systems, it is impossible to do. Whatever your values may be, it is almost close to impossible to actually align them, whether it is through banking or investing. It is just hard. You cannot pick and choose the causes that you care about and align them with your money in a way that you're also comfortable achieving your target financial goals. And so one of the things that we believe in is we do believe that this entire lens in which you view the world has to be a lens that you are powering yourself with your own values. And for us on the Y blockchain, I think this whole notion of decentralization is extraordinarily powerful. It's powerful not just through the disintermediation perspective of removing a central authority or intermediary, but because of the power that it gives people to define and control their own destiny and make their money matter more. And that is all about empowerment. And so I personally believe that blockchain and decentralized systems are one of the most powerful tools we have to realize changes for the betterment of ourselves and the planet and the people within it.
And, not here to shit all over banks, if I'm allowed to swear on the podcast.
Hey, you're on a bankless podcast, so if ever there was a place to do it.
Okay, I will shit on banks a little bit.
You don't have to. But
I'm going to shit a little bit. I think Geeta kind of hit it. There's a mode to be capitalists that you can also be for profit. And what we are trying to change and undertone or underpin with everything that we're doing is that you can also have purpose tied to that with ability, to make a profit, both for yourself. And so I think there's a common misunderstanding because we are not taught this on purpose on how banks work. And so, it is at its root, your money is not sitting behind golden bars just waiting for you to touch it. So congratulations, your savings, your deposit account, it is being loaned out, at the discretion of the banks. And they have traditionally, because a lot of financial institutions have done this, gone where opportunity and risk makes the most sense for them. And so for us, it is just about being conscious about how your money is working for you or possibly working against you. And so I use myself as an example. I try to do good by the environment. I am not perfect. Nobody is. Let's get real. Let's be fair. Let's give each other grace. Again, progress, not perfection. That there is no perfect solutions today, but you are better to make small steps, small nudges towards environmental progress than doing nothing. We're at least of that stance. So I might compost. I might ride my bike. I might do all these things, but I bank with RBC Canada, the largest funder of fossil fuel creation in Canada, 5th largest in North America. Not that RBC is bad, but they are the biggest funders and enablers of, carbon emissions and fossil fuel creation in the world. So congratulations to me patting my back on my compost efforts, but I'm also giving my money to institutions that are doing that on my behalf. And so it's just noting and recognizing, did I ever have a choice? Could I have ever spoken up? Could I have ever chosen maybe a slightly different bank or an institution that will recognize my values? And there are some. There are. And more notably, our generation as millennials and Gen Z, I'll just call us next gen, are by far, I think, the most purposeful generation I think we've ever seen. It's not to knock anybody who's come before us, that might be purpose oriented, but you've seen that as a result of COVID, Black Lives Matter and other, we are the most vocal as far as caring about the environment, sustainability, and social justice. And so you have a number of brands and corporates waking up to that. You saw how quickly during BLM, everybody was reshifting their narratives and saying, oh, look, here's our diversity policy. See? And it's because what our gen doesn't realize is our consumer purchase power. We have an ability to vote with our wallet that is larger than I think we realize. And so what we are trying to constantly advocate, it's take a look at your bank. It's take a look at the institutions and where you're supporting with some level of dollar support, whether you're just saving it there, the projects that you're supporting, or the brands that you're currently buying into, because there is a ripple effect to that. And so it's great to protest weapons bombing in Iran or just things like that. Why are we not holding the financial institutions that are funding them accountable?
Totally. Well, this is a narrative that, as a crypto lover, like I've wanted to be more on the table for a long time, because I'm like, as we became the industry, as crypto and Ethereum and NFT traders became the industry that everybody seemed to point at and laugh, it felt like, some of this is being seeded by the financial institutions that are feeling threatened by this. And they're not coming at it with like a pure heart of environmentalism. And then just, again, the kind of glossing over, if that is an area of your concern, like your traditional financial institutions, and actually in the long term, how much better it would be to move to probably a more crypto native environment.
I think if you just take a step back, what we are seeing globally is two massive paradigm shifts that are reshaping financial institutions. Number one is this global generational culture shift towards purpose. But number two is this innovation at the blockchain level, which is just starting. It's at its very nascency in its use cases. And so, which are going to include driving the fractionalization, tokenization, a distribution of assets to everybody. And this just did not exist before. And this is changing, and just at the beginning of change of how customers, whether individuals or corporates, are engaging with brands, commerce, investment, and that's what we're doing, is we're building at the intersection of these shifts. And just to expand on Ashley's point there, what we're seeing in Web3 is this merger of personal identity, which we flex and demonstrate through our NFT. By aligning with our NFT project, we are saying this is who we are and this is what we stand for. When you look at the POAPs in your wallet, or when you show that online and you're visible with it, you are showing these are the things I care about and that help define my personal identity. And we're seeing that merge with social networks, which are the groups within Web3 that you are working within, and then coupling that with entertainment, commerce, and investment. And that is the really, really exciting beginning use case. And for us, the community that's coming into our planet are those that, heck, of course they want to make money, but they also want to make their money matter more and reflect their values, which we cannot easily do in the traditional financial system.
So let's dive into our planet, and I would love to get specific here. I think we've been talking very theoretically, like in all the things that probably my audience loves, that I love, of like the system as it stands today is fairly broken and it's not benefiting everybody, and we want to get rid of the intermediaries who take away a lot of the wealth and but maybe aren't the core value contributors. So explain what our planet is and what this drop is going to look like, and to the extent that you can, what token holders can expect to get and to give as part of this project.
Sure. So for us, I think everything that you've been hearing for the last X amount of minutes has really just been building up to, we recognize that there are physical world challenges. And, we're all facing exponential problems that can feel so large and that we can never really make a difference. And how much can I as Carly or I as Ashley, really do? And so what we're trying to show and demonstrate is there is meaningful ways to align your money with your values that can have a resulting impact in the physical world. And so when we looked at the NFT space and communities in general, prominent projects put NFTs on the map. And we are so thankful to those that had pioneered the space before us and just making this kind of globally recognize that there's something here, whether it's a collector's item, but more importantly, that there's power to what these tokens can be. And you can literally package these to be more. And so for us, we thought, while these are really interesting, what if there was room for your token to be more, stand for more, do for more? And so that's what we were looking to build. We want to utilize the power of Web3 and tokens to create change for the benefit of current and future generations. All of that sounds lofty at the beginning, but when you look and understand who we are as a team and what we can deliver in both scaling and building businesses, which is exactly what we do, we know how to allocate capital in meaningful ways that create environmental and social change. And we know how to build brands and communities through our marketing team. It's at that intersection that we want to bring that level of expertise and building to Web3 and to NFTs. And so our planet is really about envisioning an alternate reality that mirrors our own, where actions and activities and things that we are doing in Web3 have a resulting amplified impact in the physical world that we will do on your behalf. Because Geeta said this in kind of our pre-interview, but you need to meet people where we're at. Not all of us are activists. Not all of us want to sit and march, but even just knowing that I'm aligned with a project and in a community or a project founding team that will make better fiduciary choices for me as a community and as a holder, and also try to do, their best as far as where they're allocating, contributing, and supporting initiatives in the physical world. That's what we want to try and connect. And so for us, it was about that connection to purpose and profit, that there are abilities to not only create financial empowerment and growth and wealth for yourself, but that it can, in dual, do something good in the physical world in a couple of areas like sustainability, like mental wellness, like financial inclusion, and others. I will only other highlight that our community is, when I looked at the space and what I've kind of absorbed over the last 2 years, there's a number of NFT projects that do amazing things in philanthropic donations. They do amazing things in community building in the metaverse or play to earn games. I think where we sit is in a very different, unique position where we are bringing broader utility, pushing the limits and use cases of what tokens can do, and finding that kind of, I'm going to say just Web 2.5 kind of connection, because not all of us resonate with a Web 3 story alone. It's how does this actually tie to my personal life? How can I take personal benefit from this? And how does this support causes and initiatives that I might care about? And we think that's going to help unlock this next wave of investors that have been sitting on the peripheral and the sidelines, just going, I'm just waiting for the right, project, I think, to speak to me in a couple of different ways. Geeta, anything you might want to elaborate on that before I go into some of the different levels of utility?
Sure. I think the what if your token could do more is basically the basic thesis that we started with. So what if your token could not just give you access to a community that shares the same values that you do and utility that you are currently used to receiving, but it can also give you your branded Arc'teryx jacket and fund a clean water initiative that you are part of. And you're part of that community and that earning cycle of being part of that. And so that was our thesis on what if your token could do more. I'll let Ashley go into the details about the collection, and then happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. So backing up, you've kind of heard us use our labs or our planet interchangeably. Our labs is the parent company where the majority of this team, both whether it's on the financial and investment side, the regulatory side, which we've operated in for over a decade in regulatory businesses, which is about to be very important in this space. we have been building a portfolio of assets, projects, and initiatives on the back end, both in areas of sustainability, clean energy, and financial inclusion. I'll give you just a couple of examples. One is in a demethanization plant, which is supporting a company that we actually helped take public last year, Green Impact Partners, which is building massive, large-scale infrastructure to I'm not even going to use the fancy words. It's repurposing cow shit into energy. I think there's a number of folks, you hear a lot about CO2 and carbon emissions and what is it doing for the climate, but a number of folks don't know that methane is actually 10 times more harmful for trapping heat in our atmosphere. And this is large scale infrastructure that is taking animal waste and repurposing it into low cost energy to help power the grid.
Low cost, low carbon energy. Move over solar, move over wind. Here comes something cleaner.
Yeah. So we've been having a lot of fun with those puns when we do come out with it. Just like cow farts are killing the planet. But not, where you might see a number of other projects that are buying and supporting carbon offsets. That's great. Would love that. We're going to make them. So this is a carbon negative project. So where we have access and intel and an ecosystem of partners to build access investments like this, infrastructure like this. This is just one example that we would want to tokenize, fractionalize, and then bring on chain over time. A second, just to note, is affordable housing projects. We've launched a pilot project where you're focused in areas like Greater Milwaukee, which, if you followed Black Lives Matter, was hit with Kenosha, right? And so when you look at one of the hardest ways to build generational wealth for right now the country, is faced with very difficult issues of just even affording a reasonable house for ourselves. And one of the biggest access points to create generational wealth for yourselves is through real estate. I think most of us live in some privileged life. If you're like me, my parents both own their homes. At some point, I will see the benefits of something like that. People don't have that access. And so we are working both with philanthropic organizations as well as investors to refurbish and build new homes that are at affordable rates in areas like Greater Milwaukee, which desperately need something like this. More notably, these are just two examples of many that are also for-profit investments. This is not just for the sake of doing good. We're good people, but we're not that good. If we see an opportunity where we can marry that profit and purpose, that's what we want to do. And so it's with that backdrop where we are building this portfolio of this style of highly collateralized, asset-heavy, cash flow funding investments that we want to tokenize, and just being frank, fractionalize, and bring on chain over time, and doing that with regulated systems that will be here by next year. And so for us, our planet is the pass. It's the gate. It's the first key to be able to access that ecosystem. And so we will be that. We view all of these as digital assets. We think that these are going to be here over the next 10 years. And we are that impact category, for Web3 and want to build here. And for our Planet Genesis holders, you are that first rights to earn, claim, and purchase anything that our labs is going to be bringing on chain on the back end. And we'll be also contributors, to be able to support these initiatives themselves, although structures and things just may look a little bit different. And so we are, bluntly said, grander than a project, an initial project. There are a series of products and services and things that we want to bring on chain. And our planet is just the first of a broader business model and platform that we want to build.
Okay. Let me see if I can say this back and tell me,
please,
and blink twice if I'm saying things that you're not allowed to say, but that feel like they might be true. No, I'm just kidding. But so you got our labs, which is this parent company, and you have people like yourself who have a long track record of making profitable investments that are also doing good. And so you have step one is just the credentials that you all have in that particular space. 'Cause I think that's it's its own niche to really learn and get good at, like any business space. And then you are launching an NFT project, specifically Our Planet, which is just sort of a subsidiary within this Our Labs universe. Mm-hmm. And by being a token holder and and getting into this Our Planet community, you're going to have the opportunity to, and this is where I know it all gets dicey because what words can we use? What's really, but yes. It's me saying it, regulators, it's not you guys, something along the order of invest in these opportunities that you all are sourcing, buying tokens that, are going to gosh, it really is hard to talk. I
It is
understand,
hard.
but like people understand what we're saying, right? We're bouncing around it, but anybody who's listening to this understands what we're saying.
Exactly, Carly. It's earn, claim, buy, or own. And so in some format. And just to also finish on, not only is this the first one, but our labs and our planet, we're VC funded. So we closed a little over 5 million in August in the middle of crypto winter because I think our thesis rang true for investors and our team. We're serial business builders. The folks who came in are all folks who know us from the businesses that we've built in the past. And so the way that this ties to our NFT project is this is where the entertainment, where the social flexing, where this first community that knows, believes, and cares about what we are doing and is part of building this with us is just so important.
Mm-hmm. What do you say to people who are like, y'all are into disintermediating, the traditional systems and, you're these brilliant people who have worked within these systems, but also rebel against it. And you just took VC money. Why not take ours? How do you respond to that?
I know how I do. This is different cocktail conversations. We are at about evolution, not revolution, I think is a better way. So to disrupt a system, there is still an ability of having to work and recognize the systems that you're currently within. And so we raised VC funds both on the backs and the heels of repeat investors that love what we have built in the past, trust that we can build and navigate a business, building a platform. We've done it before. We've done it multiple times. And so the backing came off of the thesis and the team and its ability to execute pre-token drop. So yes, it might be part of a meta conversation. We had this locked and loaded and just based on just the team alone. Two, I've already kind of coined it. We're a little Web 2.5. So you can advocate for disintermediation, decentralization, and things. Just if you follow what the White House is doing, regulation is coming. There is a component of being able to, how can this now work in a new operating system? There's still massive potential and elements here that will do good, to shift the entire system. The other ones are just really slow to adopt it, but people have recognized it. If you're on our side of the desk, you are seeing the major financial institutions scrambling to figure out how to now play in this blockchain game. They might be starting with some DeFi. They might be starting with some high-level trading. They're coming. You're already seeing it with some of the big Web 2 brands. I'm not going to belabor Starbucks, Walmart. We all know it. They're coming. That's how it always starts. And right now, I think they're just testing, the fertile grounds of this is still a really small and early community of NFT, but there's a lot of power in this. When you see this level of brand loyalty and stickiness, this is too appealing, for a number of folks to go, okay, how do we now navigate in this new world? But I say we're Web 2.5. There is room here to broaden the use cases of these assets. And for us to make this a system over the next 10 years, which I think it absolutely has the potential to be as the largest growing asset class of my generation, it needs to work within this hybrid model of some level of oversight, self-governing, some level of risk and regulation that just makes the majority of us feel safe. We just get to do it digitally and we get new access to things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am not one of the voices that has a problem with projects raising VC capital for what it's worth, but I know there are plenty of voices that do. And I think if it's done with the right intentions, there are people in this world who can open doors and, who have a lot of capital, who have a lot of connections. And if you are a project looking to do good for your holders, aligning yourself with them is good for everybody involved in the project. It just, as long as the motivations there are right. You talk about Web 2.5. Oh, did you want to say something there, Geeta?
Yeah, I think this is about exactly what you just said about not just developing or building our community, but also protecting them. What raising VC capital did for us before we even started is it helps our community know that we are here for the long term. We are here to build value for them. And so that is really, really important to us. And so I think in a time where we're just coming out of crypto winter here, where everyone is wondering, oh my God, I just got into this new asset class. What does this mean? I think this is intended to provide a further layer of trust. And then to your second point, Carly, which I agree with as well, This takes an entire world. This takes community, this takes leaders, this takes experts, this takes team, this takes everybody working together to try and figure out, where are we going? How can we get there in the best possible way? And so that's what we're here to do.
COINSHIFT is a leading treasury management and infrastructure platform for DAOs and crypto businesses that need to manage their treasury operations. Every crypto org needs to manage its treasury, and COINSHIFT offers a simple, flexible, and efficient multi-chain treasury management platform built on top of the highly secure Gnosis Safe. With COINSHIFT, your organization can go from primitive single-chain treasury management to expressive, flexible, and multi-chain treasury features, such as global user management, global contacts, proposal management, and many other features that can be shared across an entire organization, allowing users to save time and reduce operational burdens and gas costs. COINSHIFT even has data tools like account reporting across the 7 chains on which it operates. Used by industry powerhouses such as Uniswap Grants, Balancer, Consensus, and Masari, COINSHIFT is speeding up the coordination and efficiency of the organizations that use it. You have to keep up with the frontier, and COINSHIFT makes that easy. So sign up at coinshift.xyz/bankless. Do you buy NFTs? Do you like playing in the profile picture games or searching for underpriced rares? Or you're part of an NFT community and you want that sweet social experience that your NFT brings you? Of course you want these things. It's why you're listening to this podcast, and it's also why you should check out SINTRA. SINTRA is the most powerful and friendly all-in-one time saver for NFT investors. A new social-fi investment app with real-time sales, floor price tracking, Twitter mentions, and 700,000 wallets, all available to check out. All infused into a social experience to connect you with other like-minded NFT investors. In Sintra, you can do your social media things like post, reply, share, ask questions, react, right next to where you showcase your beloved and cherished NFTs. And you also get a customizable feed of NFT activity, keeping you up to speed with the always changing meta of the NFT world. If you're not using Sintra, you're falling behind. So go to sintra.com/bankless and connect your wallet to enter the world of Sintra.
You're the second guest recently who has said we are coming out of crypto winter. I think there's a lot of people looking at their bags saying, I'm sorry, what? So we're coming out of crypto winter? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to what is the use cases of crypto. And so I think people currently think about crypto in 2 ways. One, and we've added this third one, but the first one is it's really a store of value. But just like any currency, crypto has exogenous forces on it, as well as internal issues that you have to deal with. And so it's just like any currency, it's based on a belief system, right? So is it a store of value? Possibly, but just like any other store of value, you have to be deeply conscientious of how much, how diversified, where you are, etc. The second use case for crypto is around a very simple payment rail. And so that payment rail is literally what allows you to bypass a 48-hour wire or a 74-hour wire or sort of like 90-hour wire if you're sending it across multiple borders. And so that is a payment rail that is just simply the single most efficient way of doing something today. It's materially lower cost, it's administratively easier to track, and it is deeply, deeply efficient. And that payment rail around like a USDC, which is regulated, is the second major use case, and that's only growing, and we're only seeing that continue to grow. The third one is around the fractionalization, tokenization, and distribution of off-chain assets. And for us, this is really, really important because right now, everybody piled into crypto originally because they thought it was building off of hype, right? And so therefore they could continue to buy up until the carousel stopped, right? And then whoever was left without the chair or the horse, oops. And which is awful because you know my background, Carly. I come from poverty. There is nothing worse for your mental health, your family health, your personal health than having money woes, money troubles, loss of money in your own self and with anybody in your family. And so my heart goes out to anybody who has lost money in this crypto winter. But every single major institution is right now onboarding ramps, crypto to fiat and storage ramps on their systems, whether you're Fidelity or whether you're any of the major custodians. So they're doing it to allow their wealth managers, their institutional buyers, their retail buyers to have the ability to purchase and store it. But that's just the beginning. Where I see the real use case here is in the fractionalization, tokenization, and distribution of assets. And the reason for this is because what crypto gives, which we have not talked about, is it gives an opportunity to create liquidity and secondary trading pools for previously for illiquid assets. So when you take any illiquid asset that exists, let's take infrastructure for a moment. The only people who go into infrastructure are large pensions, large family offices, large endowments who have 20-year matching of long duration liabilities with long duration assets. Yet they're looking at growing their asset base by a yield of 8 to 15% year over year for 20 years. But the pay-to-play ticket to get in there is in the tens of millions, if not the hundreds of millions. And so you can't easily get liquidity on
You're
that.
saying, hypothetically speaking, if there was a plant that took cow shit and turned it into, an environmental asset or whatever, turned it into energy, and it cost millions of dollars to buy, but there was a way to take that asset, move it on chain, fractionalize it, and sell 1/1000th of it at a cost that was actually affordable to somebody who would never have had that opportunity before, that's game changing in today's world, hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically speaking, exactly. And yes, hypothetically, exactly.
Yeah.
And that right there is, for me, I think one of the biggest uses, because what this does is it transfers wealth from the hands of the people who have a lot and who are only going to use it to make more into the hands of people who are just building.
Why couldn't we? And maybe it's a matter of we could, but the will wasn't there and it was deeply less efficient, do that pre-tokens and pre-blockchain and pre-NFT. In theory, right, you could still have taken that asset. We could have found ways to legally fractionalize it into a ton of little pieces.
It's just effort. It's way too much effort. If you are somebody who is developing an asset and all of a sudden now you need $1.2 billion to build this asset, you're going to call a bank. That bank is going to run a process and they're going to say, okay, it's a $1.25 billion asset. Minimum pay to, and by the way, this has happened, minimum pay to play $400 million. Who's in? So all of a sudden, who is going to go and look at that and say, hey, can we carve out 10% at exactly the same terms that whatever the institutional folks do and allow this to be tokenized and distributed, fractionalized, tokenized and distributed to a retail population? It never gets there because it is taken up before it even gets there. And so when you think about the ability to do that, and then the second piece of it is not only do you need large check sizes, but you also need to have a sophistication in the documentation that you are signing. You also need to have a sophistication in the understanding that once you put $1 in this, you cannot take it out for the next 20 years. And so unless you're selling it on another illiquid secondary market. And so what the blockchain does is allows you to create this ability to have all the way down to $100 unit, because the cost of administration is irrelevant on whether you are selling $100 million token or $100 token. And then the ability to break it up and trade it, as well as create liquidity literally on the blockchain because of the ease of transaction and the frictionless transfer to others by creating these marketplaces. It just hasn't existed before. So that combination of underwriting, fractionalization needs the tokenization and liquidity capacity and capabilities of the blockchain to make this work. Otherwise, the cost and the friction is just too high.
Geeta, did I hear correctly that are you from Brazil originally, or you were born in Brazil?
I was born in Brazil, lived there until I was about 18.
Okay. So I'm curious, and just broadly, obviously, the two of you just incredibly knowledgeable. Do you see a difference between the value prop, or how you would explain the value proposition for blockchain and a lot of what you're talking about and thinking about, in developed nations versus in developing economies? Or do you think the value prop is more or less the same?
I think the value prop is the same. It is about cause tying profit and purpose together, and creating a portfolio of cause-based tokens that help you align your money with your own values. I think at the most holistic level. From the Our Planet perspective, it is about building a purpose-based community in Web3 that has come together in the exact same Discord, whether you are from Asia, whether you are from Brazil, whether you are from New York City. And take a look at our Twitter for some of the incredible community content that they're developing and that they're putting up there themselves. It's mind-boggling to see people like literally cleaning up a major city that could be a Singapore and then a village somewhere in Southeast Asia, where they are supporting the values of our planet, which is that purpose-based ecosystem. And so I think it's the same. I think technology and media have made knowledge and ideas and human connection merge. And so what we always say at Our Planet is that we are building at the intersection of innovation, human purpose, and impact.
Carly, did you mean just the blockchain technology pitch in general, how that's being received or positioned?
So I've had this kind of theory of late that I think one of the ways that I want to test out, kind of talking about blockchain and NFTs maybe specifically, to people who are skeptical, not people who are like delusionally opposed to it, which obviously we all know there are plenty of people who are there and you can't reason with that. But people who are kind of skeptical, I think there's an element of there being this like late stage capitalism, get the final squeeze out of the lemon thing, which always makes it sound really like negative and extractive, which is not really how I mean it, but like this creating a closer relationship between the brand and their consumer, or the artist and their fan, that whether they monetize it because of the relationship, because the NFT is making them money, or they just create more value for a set of fans who they can then monetize in other ways because they've created that bond.
Totally. That
feels like a very distinct advantage in a later stage capitalist society, when like so much of the innovation has been kind of built or done, or Starbucks already has its millions of consumers. That maybe is slightly different in a more developing economy. So, which is separate, which is what I love about this space, which is really kind of different, though not entirely, but from the value prop you're putting forward here about kind of tokenizing and giving access to these financial opportunities that just previously really weren't accessible. Again, there's overlap, you're building a community, but my head has been there recently, and that's it. That's where the question came from in some ways.
I hear what you're saying. One thing to note, we looked at, I'm an NFT holder, so been in the space for about 2 years. Geeta, other members of our team, dabbled in the space over just like the last year or so. What was more important to us is to pick the best of what I think we saw and we're getting out of some, whether it was utility or best out of some of these communities that was really resonating with us, and bring that together as part of Our Planet. So yes, we might be focusing on this connection to off-chain assets. Yes, we might be talking about broader use cases and utility. I don't even love saying that word, but it's such a buzzword. That's just one area. So as far as building a brand and a global IP that people can resonate with, I mean, I saw the power in New York of people tattooing these brands on their body that are not even 9 months old. And then
they're like blue chip NFTs. It's like, sweetie,
yeah,
there are no blue chip NFTs.
Did you? Yeah, it just, there's no reflection of this in their attire. Like, it's so different than like the Wall Street rate, or just how you showboat. Just people are showing me their necklaces with their rotating NFTs. It's on their watches. They're demonstrating brand loyalty and stickiness in so many different ways. We are still looking to create all of that. There are our art, if you've taken a look at it at Our Planet NFT, is rich in characters, in lore, in gifts, and talents and skills. And so I don't want to neglect that we are deeply focused on building a recognized IP that people can resonate and feel like they can hyper-personalize both in their art through PFP upgrades and others, or just resonate because of the gifts and the traits and the storytelling that we're trying to build, around it. And so to your point on just whether it's artist community, which we will be leaning also into as we create and morph, the species of our planet that we do with other things. I just can't talk about a couple of those announcements just yet. We will be building everything that I think you were just outlining because it is important. Different things are important to different people. And so I think if you blindly say this is just the project we're going to do and this is the only ways that we can add and put areas of value to it, I think you're limiting your scope and just the power. And the big projects that have done this really well have done really well as a result of this because they have broadened not only the use cases, but the access and the utility and the benefits to try and resonate with a bigger demographic versus being so hyper niche that it's only the project for X, demographic. To your other point where I thought you were maybe going with it is just this resonate with different people in the different, parts of the world. I think everyone for some reason has a phone. They don't have a bank account. Not to take us all the way back to banking. But you saw a rise of what's called neobanks, if anyone has ever heard of this. But these are digital banks that basically in the infrastructure on the back end plug into normal banks. It's a bit of not knocking them. Some of them are fabulous. It is a marketing story that is a Trojan horse to normal banking because it is just done digitally. But the rise of that is if you think of the, concentration of urban communities and where we used to do banking, where you could head, 5 minutes down either by drive or by walking to whatever bank was closest to you. COVID really shut that down and then accelerated digital banking and neobanking, I think 8 times faster than any other industry would have just, speculated or forecasted for it. And so now when you have this blockchain proposition of artists owning their own art and disintermediating the normal routes to be able to either publish or feature their art and connect directly to their fan base, huge. Our artist is actually South Korean. Her name's Nessie. She is part of an alumni group called Super Annie under Kungju Kim. I think I'm saying his name incorrectly. Apologies. But she was an up-and-coming artist who was really just assessing, the landscape and wanted to work with a women and minority-led project because she is herself the same and wanted a platform to launch around, causes and initiatives where she felt like she could have a platform to now help, with other artists grow within the NFT space. You now have that opportunity and amongst others as we look to develop more tokens and others. So just to your point about connection to artists, fan base, that level of like ownership and brand loyalty, it's because they feel like co-owners. I've never seen anything like this. It is why Starbucks, it is why Walmart, it is why McDonald's, it is why they are coming, is that I'm sure there's some marketing stats on this, but the amount and ability that you can do with a loyal customer who loves, what you do, what you stand for, and what you can do to help benefit them time and time again is just too powerful. So even in these small groups, that has power.
Yeah. It strikes me that the two of you are obviously very good spokespersons for the blockchain for all of us. When I think about the groups that, are very skeptical of the blockchain, it's probably people skeptical of the just bro degenerate nature of it, feeling like it's actually a social bad as opposed to a social good. But you're also incredibly savvy, strategic business people. So it's not either from some place of like hippie, we want to that can also, I think, draw skepticism of like, oh, these people are just like living in the clouds, completely disconnected from the real world, just thinking we're going to like live in some utopia. Like, again, you're both very grounded in the real world. As a final question here, what is your marketing approach? How much are you courting the NFT community? You're on this podcast, so I guess a little bit at least, right? And how much are you looking to use this as a way to really bring new folks into the ecosystem?
2 points to what you are saying. The first is I don't think you can have one without the other. And that was the very first piece that I think Ashley was starting to talk about. So you cannot, like, if you're thinking about truly how do you engage next gen, you have to think about it as what do they want and what are they looking for and meet them where they are. And so if next gen is merging, because they are merging personal identity, social networks, entertainment, and investing and commerce together. and they're doing it because of ease of use, peer validation, and transparency, then that is where all brands, not just one brand, but all brands that want to be in this space have to be building and looking at. It can't just be one little silo of each of the above. The second thing to blockchain, and you're saying why and what you say to people who are skeptics, because of course there are. I think it's that you have to look at the underlying use cases. And for me, the way I always explain it, and then I'll give you the second half of the answer, which is which you just asked. But the way I always explain it is we currently have trustless transactions. We do them every single day. When you buy a house, you don't buy a house from somebody without having title insurance, because that, if you don't know somebody, you're not going to give X $100,000 to buy a house without knowing that somebody has verified that that house is there. But that trustless transaction that requires institutions in our current TradFi is something that has a cost. And those institutions also are not made to serve everybody. They are also run by humans, by individuals, and therefore they are not perfect. And so they do not underwrite mortgages, for example, without, blind. They look at multiple things. And so there is a reality that bias exists in institutions. That I think we all are very, very aware of. And I can give you a whole bunch of stats on that at another time. And so, but once you understand that we currently do use we use institutions for trustless transactions today, and we're just making it deeply more efficient to do it online. And why wouldn't you do it? And so I think as we see more and more use cases of it, first, of course, with commerce, and then with off-chain assets, and then let's see where it goes, is I think a really, really useful thing to know. And that's how I always explain it to the skeptics.
I think your question of just who are we serving and then where do we kind of go? I think there's a reality. We're calling it crypto winter, whether we're steadily emerging out of it, still in it a little bit, but we're building as optimists that we will be out soon, and we've built in bear markets multiple times. So it's, if you can build strategically, as we plan to, that's who becomes, I think, market darlings when times are great. So
what I got to jump in here on this one. Sorry. This is really, really important. If you want to build, this is in the end, whether it's an institution or whether it's a technological contract or whether it's a brand, what stands behind all of these things? One word: trust. And when you have trust, that's when you can grow. That's when you can engage. And so the key, in our view, to bringing the next 1 million, 10 million, 100 million people onto the blockchain is about creating a trusted brand. And today, to your point, Carly, it feels like, okay, well, it's a bro culture. Oh, well, what about all these words that we don't understand? Oh, what does hoodling mean? What does pick a word, any
Wag
other
me.
word. Like,
yeah.
what does it mean?
Like you guys are all
Wag me.
Monkey pictures as your Twitter handle is not appealing to me, or whatever, right? These customs.
But exactly. But what that just is that's just the beginning. Yeah. And this is the single most welcoming community I have ever met in my life. And so as we are going into this community, they are so welcoming. They don't care what color skin you have, what gender you are, who you love at home, who you pray to, what language you speak. They care about what value can you bring to the community. That is where you can bring the next 1 million and 10 million people that are like-minded, that may not have entered the blockchain or bought a token for just a PFP or just access into a community. They need that next step, and they need to know that there is a group there that is fully doxed, that is VC backed, that is here for the long term, that they can trust. And so that's I think the key to the next group coming on chain.
Okay, let's get final layer of detail and specificity here. What is the collection size? who's on the team working on the drop. Give us that date, time of drop, so everybody has all the information they need.
Okay, perfect. So we are an 8,888 piece collection. Our mint date for the private sale is October 25th, starting at 9 a.m. EST, 7 a.m. MST, which is the most important to me because that's where I'm at. Our price point is 0.08, and we've brought on an amazing team, which I did not have a chance to highlight, of Web3 advisors to round out what we think is a stacked team, honestly, for this Our Planet NFT drop. So most notably, people might know Zeneca, founder of 333 Club, and Zen Academy, a pretty notable voice for the Web3.
He's on every other week. He does the recap episode with me every other week.
He is amazing. And Josh Ong, who recently founded Boardroom Ventures, he was actually just noted. He was listed on the BAYC Community Council that I think came out last week. So huge congrats to him, as well as a couple of other team members that have joined him on Boardroom Ventures. And then lastly, Project Gojira, which I've been a member of, me and my partner, for a long time. And I think they're one of the stronger communities, I think, built here since, I think they launched in October, but very strong community build to help us kind of navigate the sector. So we've all collectively noted a number of Web2 brands in our repertoire, and it was just, important to us to round out what we needed, I think, in the Web3 space, and we found it.
You said private sale on the 25th. Is there a public sale? How do folks get into the private sale? What are the details?
Great. Thank you for highlighting that, Carly. So we have been distributing allow lists to our collection, mostly through engagement and collaborations with other partners and groups that we have some, a respect for, projects that we think are doing great work in the Web3 space. We've been collaborating since day one, and really focused on rewarding those that are engaging in our community, helping with onboarding, welcoming those that are new to the space, and participating in all of our Twitter spaces, activations, things that we want to do. So for us, we are always watching. We've been a fully doxed team and fully integrated into our Discord, whether we liked it or not. And so we have been, highlighting those that we think are strong contributors to the community growth and the community building that is the most important to us. And so public day is on October 26th. So for those that didn't have an opportunity to have an allow list and be there for private participation, there's a public mint day for October 26th at 9 a.m. EST again.
I love it. Well, thank you both so much for coming on, and so excited to see what y'all are going to build. Again, this episode will either be airing on Monday or Tuesday, and the mint is happening on Tuesday. So if you are listening to this the day it is dropped, just know that. And just so grateful for the two of you, for what you're building, what you're doing, and for coming on and spending this time with me.
And right back at you, Curly. We love Bankless. We love what you do. And you are a woman in finance and technology and media. And so grateful for what you're doing and for a chance to visit with you here. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Overpriced JPEGs. If you liked this conversation, if you liked this episode, please go ahead and hit subscribe. It helps me out, it helps the show out, and it means you will get alerts and updates when we post new content. Thanks again.